We're live.
We're on.
Yeah, we're on now. So those that are watching, welcome to our show. Look, this is, let me frame this in a way that what we're doing here, this is part of the Lionheart page, where I do mindset for those who watch mindset and music entertainment business. This probably won't interest you because what we're doing is we're doing more Carlton talk, which is the other part of Lionheart regarding mindset. Ramo and I have been doing the show for a little while live from the sandpit under Blue Blaggers Global, and we thank John Allen who gave us the opportunity for that. Today is a day that we thought a couple of days ago actually, we thought why not, let's just jump on, create a stream and discuss the current coaching committee and the way what's happening in the world of Carlton at the moment. So, and the reason why I think we want to do this also, those who don't know, Ramo's background is he's an expert, he's a guru in recruitment. He's been doing it for over 20 years. I'll let him talk about it a little bit more, although he's quite humble. He doesn't like to talk about it too much. And that's it. I guess what we wanted to do is just discuss the recruitment process, actually from a professional point of view and from someone that's really, really experienced. And then what we'll do is we'll go into this pretty tightly, and then probably we'll go through some questions. Today is not about who's going to be the coach or anything else. Today is purely talking about from an expert point of view of the recruitment process to find a coach. So Ramo, welcome to the show. It's good to have you back, my man. We're coming live from the sandpit in Dubai. And I'll put some comments up if anyone has some comments and stuff, so we can discuss. And maybe later we might get someone on or whatever if they've got any question regarding the committee and how that's all going. So tell just those who are watching. We've got a few people that are watching already. Just give us a little bit of a background on your background. People know about my background with the Mind Fitness, but just from your side.
Yeah, man. I've been lucky enough to work in search firms for, this is my 20th year now. I would say probably 14 of those years were in Oz working the Asia Pac market, and the last 6 years have been in the Middle East working the global market. I've worked for some of the largest multinationals and some great boutiques, and have my own sort of a search firm over the last few years here in the Middle East. And yeah, you mentioned why we're having this sort of impromptu sort of podcast is purely just because from an external point of view, there've been some alarm bells ringing when we're hearing what we hear. Now, we don't know the full story, right? So we're only making our assumptions or this analysis based on what we know, whether it's through media or through contacts at the football club and so forth. So these aren't matter-of-fact answers, but what I'm going to try and do is try and shed some light into how a successful process should look like, and that will show you the glaring sort of gaps between what it should look like and what it currently does look like, according to what we're seeing in the media, right? So
because it looks like a real big mess, and I just want to, there's a shout out here from Rocco, our friend Rocco and I wanted to put a big shout out to all the guys at the Jumper Punch. They are doing a wonderful job. For me, is probably the best show that's about Carlton. They're great. So big hello to Rocco, Mars, and Paolo, and I'm sure Dan the Man, Pom Man will join us a little bit later also. So yes, go ahead, Ramo.
So look, you would think that we're lucky enough to have a certain sort of we've had a certain individual that's had an impact on our sort of selection committee when it comes to who we bring into the club. He goes by the name of David Campbell, who is a partner at Egon Zehnder. Now, Egon Zehnder are global.
For those who don't know, Ramo, for those who don't know,
they're arguably the most reputable executive search firm globally. To hold a partner position in that firm, you need to know your stuff. Okay. You don't just fluke your way through up the ranks in that business. It just doesn't work. And even if you get up there, you won't last long because you'll be found out. He's been a partner for 10 years. Okay. So off the bat, we need to say that there has to be some genuine credibility behind this bloke. However, from what we know, this guy's been involved in some, I would say, horrendous hires at our club. Okay, he's been
that
on
includes Stephen Trigg, Bolton, Kane Little, etc. Yeah.
Now, Stephen Trigg, disaster. Bolton, in hindsight, Kane Little's a bit of a different one. It was commercially we're great, and then football department as a CEO, he's probably the worst. So again, and we're going to touch on this. So he knows how to do this job, right? And he's been a board member. But he's not a board member now, right? So he's but he has been a board member. He has influence. He has friends in the club.
No, he's a board member still. He's
still
current board member. Okay. He still is, but he's not on. But he's not on the committee.
So he's not on the 6-person panel.
Correct, which is weird. And he's supposed to be the guy in charge of culture. Anyone that knows, please put it in the comments of what his actual role is. I think it's on the website. But yeah, he's in charge of leadership and culture or something like that. But it's dumbfounded that why is he not on there? Maybe he's done a bad job before. I don't know. But I mean, you're the expert. So give us.
If he's done a bad job before, and we've obviously rattled off some names where he's been involved in that process, so I'm just struggling to sort of figure out what his actual value add is if he's on the board and he's not actually utilizing his sort of talent acquisition sort of strength, right? So, but let's just break it down on what actually should be happening. Okay, from my standpoint. I've been lucky enough to place senior executives with the consultant businesses like PwC, Accenture, EY, KPMG, both here and in Oz over the years. Okay, whenever we take these executive sort of search assignments on, it is a process. It is such a lengthy process. Before we even start the process, the fielding or the feeling out that they do with us, the search firm, before they select who they're going to actually go with, it's rigorous, right? Like we need to pretty much dance for our supper, all right? So it's a proper process for them to identify who they want to go with. So what that means is they the client decide rigorously who is going to select or identify and attract the very best talent. Now, identifying people is one thing, attracting them is something else. Okay, anyone can say we should go and get Clarkson. He's been identified. Yeah. Okay, but
or Ross.
Or Ross or anybody else. Anyone who's got half a brain should be able to say, here is the list of 6, 10, 15 coaches who we should be targeting. Okay, no one's going to come up with an innovative way where, do you remember that guy that was coaching 10 years ago? Maybe we should re-engage with him. Like it's. The identification piece in the AFL when it comes to head coaches is done. It's different for CEOs, but it's done when it comes to coaches. That's just a given. The attraction
what do you mean
piece.
By done? What do you mean by done?
As in, you don't need to look too far to cast the net too wide to know who your candidates are that you're going to be talking to. Yeah, okay. Everyone's talking to the same types of people. You're going to be talking to Michael Voss. You're going to be talking to Nathan Buckley. You're going to be talking to Adam Kingsley. You're going to be talking to these types of people. Uze. But again, obviously, we'll get into the criteria afterwards. But like these are the candidates that are potential sort of future senior coaches, right? Whether they've been a senior coach or whether they haven't been, it doesn't make a difference. The candidates are the candidates. So the identification piece, you don't really need to think too long and hard about it because you know who the candidates are. Like I said, you're not going to come up with an out of the box, out of the sort of ordinary sort of candidate and make that person on the actual search list. It just won't happen.
But here's the point, and that's why I want you to help us on this and give us a bit of clarity on this, is that Luke Sayers has already gone up and he said, we're looking for an experienced coach.
Okay.
Right? So you're telling me you've done the identification, right? But that's a clarification of what they want. Or is that part of the identity?
Yeah, so that means, if you even wind it back beforehand, when they select the agency, okay, the search firm, which they've selected their 6-person committee, that's now their internal search firm. Okay,
Okay.
that's how you compare it. Okay, they're not going external to Egon Zehnder or to anybody like that. They got their 6-person committee to identify and attract the best person. When they have now that they've identified these 6 people internally, they will then decide on their criteria. And Sayers has publicly announced his criteria being one thing so far, which is someone with experience. Okay, so if that's the case, that's fine. So therefore, people like Adam Kingsley and so forth, Uze, they're out. They wouldn't even talk to them.
So Michael Voss is in, or Lepic could be in.
Nathan Buckley, Scott is in. Like these types of people who have had a head coach role before, maybe Pike, whatever it may be. These types of people, they're in. Okay, these are the candidates if they stick to their criteria. Now, a segue to that is 2.5 years ago, our board member Chris Judd on Classified publicly stated, like Sayers, that we don't want to coach with training wheels. Now, whether that was just his own personal opinion, but he said we. He didn't say I. He said we. So that means either some of the board or all the board or all the club were wanting someone with experience to come in to take over from Bolton. They got swept up in the media hype. They went with Teague because of the little momentum that he was building and the Teague train, the rubbish that the media pushed and shoved down our throats. We had club captains like Cripps, coming out and say, "I'm on board the Teague train." It was all. They couldn't go against it. The momentum was too strong towards Teague that if they had not gone and hired him, it would have been a disaster, PR-wise. Okay?
Yeah.
But let's just confirm that there was a directive from the board, at least one board member, that they wanted.
Ramo, you're cutting out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I got you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there was a directive from the board, at least one board member who stated they wanted someone with experience. And they went against that. Now, we're talking about Sayers publicly stating 3, 4, 5 times in all the different interviews that he's been doing that he wants an experienced coach. What's the chances of them backtracking on that and hiring someone who's an experienced senior assistant or an assistant coach coming in for their first head coach role? We don't know. Why?
Do you think they will do that? Otherwise, I mean, that's what Teague was. But I don't know.
So that's the process. You pick who you're going to use. You select your criteria based on what you're searching for. It has to be a collective agreement. You can't just have 3 people thinking we want X, Y, Z and 3 people thinking we want A, B, C. You're never going to hire. And take it from me. I work with clients that are confused, companies that are confused when it comes to hiring. And the key decision making in those businesses, when they're not on the same page, they search for months and months and months, and because they don't actually agree on who they should hire, because there are polar opposites on what they're looking for. If they're not in agreement on what they're looking for, they're not going to be able to make the right decision or even make a decision at all.
So do you think that's happened with Ross? I mean, without being privy to the understanding what's happening. And sorry, I just want to put people have said hello. So hi to Chris Beach, Lana and Gina that are joining us also. Big hello from us in the sandpit. Go ahead.
Do I think it's happened with Ross? I think it's hard for us to say from an external view because we don't truly know what's actually happening at the club. We're only hearing the shit from the media mainly, right? And then some inside sort of talk. I look at that 6-person committee and
let's talk about that.
So I think what they're doing is right. I think the process is right so far by actually putting people through a process. I think Ross Lyon has demonstrated a sense of arrogance that he doesn't believe he needs to go through a process. There's only one person who doesn't need to go through a process, and that's Clarkson. Everybody. No, he doesn't. He doesn't because he's not a dual premiership coach where he's proven it and done that. He's been out of the game for 2 years. The game's changed a lot in 2 years' time. Clarkson is relevant. He just finished up. He's a 4-time premiership coach, arguably the best of the last century. He's a superstar, right? So he's the only one who can bypass the process. And I don't care what the media say. If they were to hire Clarkson without a process, bad luck. You got Clarkson. So who cares, right?
But isn't it the same as you could have said the same thing about Malthouse? I mean, Malthouse.
No, because even on our previous podcast, I've compared the two. You can't compare Malthouse to Clarkson, success-wise. No chance. Absolutely no chance. Not even in the same league. What he's done.
All right. So let's talk about the committee and who's on there, right? So you've got Diesel, you've got Parker. It's 6, okay.
Yep.
You've got Luke Sayers.
Yeah.
You've got Brad Lloyd, Kane Little, and I forget the woman's name, but she's on the board too. She's in charge of the AFLW. Kinsley, I think her name is. If anyone knows, put it in the comments.
So let's dissect. Yeah. So Sayers would have experience in making big decisions within PwC. So having him on the selection committee would make sense to a certain degree, but not on a footballing department degree. Okay, because he doesn't really understand it that well, right? David Parkin is a nostalgic play in my mind because he doesn't really. I love Parker, but like he's it's like asking Ron Barassi for his opinion. Okay, it's a bit down the stretch for Parker to still be relevant, right? When
I got the name, Paddy Kinsley. Thanks, Lana. That's the one.
Yeah. So Parkin again, is he relevant enough and is he up to date enough and does he have his finger on the pulse? 50-50 at best. You got Brad Lloyd and you got Kane Little, who strong rumors from all angles, they're probably not even going to be there, right? So like, why they even included in this process? And then you got Diesel. Now look,
be careful on Diesel. He's my buddy.
Yeah, Diesel is fantastic. Yeah, is Diesel in the right role right now in the football club? I'm not too sure. Should he be in the football club? Yes, I think he has a lot to offer based on football player development and so forth. Whether he's a football director and whether he's that level of personality that can actually, go through a rigorous process to identify and attract the very best coach. He's not someone that if I would sit in front of, I would be super impressed with and I want to work under.
So interesting. Okay, so if you were in that position of recruitment, would you hire Diesel for that role?
No, I wouldn't. No.
Okay.
And if I was the external partner helping them through this process, and I looked at that 6-person committee, I would be very, very nervous, and I would putting in some strict SLAs and clauses in my contract to make sure that my success would not be based on their failure.
Interesting. There's a comment there from Sebastian. If you can have a look at that and then answer that or see what you think. Do you agree to that in regarding to the recruitment?
Sayers thought he could make a captain's call. Yeah, look. So short answer, yes, from what we're actually seeing. Yeah. So we're seeing this based on what we're told or what they want us to see from the media, right? We're seeing a divide where we're hearing rumors about some of the board didn't want Ross or whatever it may be. Look, they need to follow a process because I don't remember the last time we actually did a process. It was Pagan.
So it's a good thing. So it's a good thing.
Let's go through the track record. Pagan wasn't a process. No. After Pagan was Ratton, I wouldn't call that a process. No. After Ratton was who? Malthouse?
Malthouse. That wasn't a process.
That wasn't a process. Bolton wasn't a process.
Well, Bolton, it was, wasn't it? Didn't they go out to search for a coach? They did. I don't think they're going to. Because Michael Voss went for that one too, didn't he?
Okay, but they came up with Bolton instead.
Teague wasn't a process for sure. If anything, it was a running of 2.
So let's say out of the last 5 or 6, all but one were not even close to being a process. So let's just be thankful that we're running a process. However, I'm still very, very disheartened and nervous about what this process is going to look like. We have a very outspoken president right now, complete opposite to what we've had for the last few years. And he's making a lot of big calls publicly that at the moment have fallen flat on his face. Okay, he's making big calls. And he probably should be a little bit more mindful about what he says publicly about the process and about this committee and about what we're trying to do with the football club until we're close to actually getting it done, as opposed to early stages, right? So that would be my advice to him.
Yeah.
Committee's all wrong because I don't think they have the know-how to identify and, more importantly, attract. If I'm a candidate and a prominent one, and I was to sit in a room with those 6 individuals, I wouldn't be wowed. Yeah.
So who would wow you then?
Well, look, I would be hearing that 2 of them are actually potentially on the outer. So why are they talking to me? And I'll give you a lot of examples. So I am working on a C-suite role at the moment, and he had his 4th stage with one of my clients here in the Middle East, and he met with someone who he found out is not going to be there in 6 months' time. This person's relocating to Europe, and this person's not going to be involved in the business day to day. His feedback to me after that interview was, why did I even waste my time talking to this person? Why are they gauging me through him when he's not even going to be there? All right. So
just want you to bear in mind of the comments I'm putting in. There's a whole bunch of comments. Yeah,
we've never had a process. So the criteria needs to be identified. We want a senior coach. We want someone who has had a head coach before. But that can't be it. It has to be someone who's strong with their processes, someone who has who can galvanize the playing group, someone who can hold them accountable. Whatever. I'm just thinking of things. I'm not involved in the process. I'm just thinking of things that that would be relevant to what we didn't have in Teague. Yeah, someone who is very, very strong-willed, who's very opinionated, who can handle the media. Because this person's going to jump into a very, very hot seat, man. Like this person.
There's a comment there from Rocco. He's saying that they're only following the process because they failed to get Clarkson and Ross. And then he says here, question is why? Why don't they want to come to the club? Which is the other point, which I think is a really valid point.
And that's probably like a different podcast, right? Because we're only analysing and criticising to a certain degree the actual process, because who it's going to be and why others don't want to come. Like I mentioned it earlier, like the 6-person committee doesn't instill confidence and doesn't inspire.
Who would you get? Would you get someone like a Paul Roos? Is that what you'd be looking at? Is it someone like a Paul Roos or someone else Neil
like
Baum or something?
Like a Dunstall, Paul Roos type of person. Look, I'm a big fan of Nick Riewoldt, like in how he communicates more than most people on Fox Footy anyway. But it doesn't even need to be 6 people, mate. Like too many cooks, I mean, if all 6 people are going to come to an agreement, it's going to be very rare, right? So and on that comment of we're only running a process because we didn't get Clarkson, it's fine. Okay, so that's fine. We tried to go with the big name, but that big name I would be furious if we didn't go for him. So forget about the process for now. We went for Clarkson. Clarkson said no. We kind of went for Ross and then decided halfway through that he has to go through a process. That's annoying. You either go for him or you don't. But he's shown his true colors by pulling out because he believes that he's too good for a process. And that's bullshit, mate. That's arrogance, and you're not worthy of it. Okay,
I disagree on that, but
what's he won?
What do you mean? What's he won?
What's he won?
It doesn't matter, mate. He's gone to three grand finals. The guy is a gun coach.
What's he won? I'm not saying he's not a gun coach. He would be fantastic for our club. We're talking about why he believes he can bypass a process.
Because he's probably, and we're just assuming here, he's probably bypassing the process because there's 2 guys on there that he doesn't get along with. That's Brad Lloyd and Kane Little, which had a fallout with his best mate, which is Silvani.
So he's proving that he's not the right person, mate. He's proving to us that he's not the right person. If I was running this process and I had 2 people beside me in Kane Little and Brad Lloyd, and Ross Lyon was the candidate, and Ross Lyon didn't want to go through the process because of those two individuals, well, then you've done me a favor, sir.
But more than likely, those two guys are not going to be at the club.
but at the moment they are, and he needs to respect that. As much as it's frustrating, they shouldn't be there. That's fine. I agree. Those two people shouldn't be in the process, but stupidly they are. So whilst they are, he needs to respect it and get over his personal relationship with Brad Lloyd and get over and the Kane Little Silvani thing. That is schoolboy stuff, mate. I don't like you because you don't like my mate.
We're assuming here, but
okay.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, but regardless of those two, he's still not the coach that qualifies to bypass the process. Because you saying that he is you rating him at the same level as Clarko. And let's be honest.
No. I'm not rating him at the same. But I think if you can't get Clarko, and I'd be interested to see what people think here on the comments. If you can't get Clarko, Ross is the second best thing. I don't see any other coach. Other coach. Right. You tell me. You got Don Pike.
But he has to go through a process. He has to go through a process. Fine. But he doesn't want to.
They could have done it in a different way. Maybe. Can't you do it in a different way? Like, not let the media know because for his ego?
100%. So the different way would have been not announcing the process halfway through the process or halfway through speaking to him already. Okay, and just putting him through the process quietly so he wouldn't be drilled in the media every single time. Okay, because publicly, if he goes through the process and he fails, do you know how humiliating that is for him? Because he's arrogant. Okay. He believes in his shit, which is great, fantastic. You're a great coach, mate. But if he believes that he's that good and then he goes through a process and he doesn't get it, mate, classifieds will be just like a 40-minute segment on why he didn't get the job.
There's a comment here from Gina also, which is pretty interesting. Having put Williams and Parker on the committee, the little soft spot to calm members down.
Nostalgic, mate. Nostalgic. Next, we're going to bring Sticks back.
And I've just got another comment here. Get over Lyon. He's not coming. Clark's just holding up for more money. Conditions. Have we heard anything from the horse's mouth or just via his agent? Paul Roos is gettable. He's at North, not locked in. Fits the process requirements.
So again, let's not get drawn into who's going to be the coach, because I still believe it's Clarko. So let's not get drawn in on who's going to step through them. But at the moment, they're running a process with the wrong selection committee, with probably a jumbled up, not confirmed selection criteria. I'm not sure how far they're casting the net for this. I'm not sure what the interview process is, how many stages, what they're getting the coaches to present, what are they asking from the coaches during the process. This is all something that we aren't privy to. We don't know. But they need to ask them about what they think of the list. They need to ask them about their coaching philosophy. They need to ask them about their sort of match day sort of style, like their game style, what they see us being now in 12 months' time, in 3 years' time. That old thing. What was it? It was it was Hardwick, and it was someone else. No, it wasn't Hardwick. Yeah, it was Hardwick and Matty Knights at Essendon when they were both going for the job after Sheedy, and they asked both the same question: "What do you think of our list?" Matty Knights told them what they wanted to hear, which was, "I think we can play finals." Dimmer said, "It's a rebuild." Matty Knights got the job because Essendon were fucking stupid and they just wanted someone who was a yes man. And then
easy on the swearing.
And then in the end, they went with Matty Knights, and we know how that turned out. It was an absolute disaster of a era for them. And look at Dimmer. Yep.
I understand that. Look, there's a thing here that Linnell has also mentioned. They're also probably trying to rush it before they have their EGM, which is. And kudos to our friend Vince, that's Vince Lociani, that's Lochisano, sorry, that's putting that together. But it looks like they're it says that, but then at the same time they're saying 35 to 40 days, which I don't understand. And then they're looking at getting Brian Cook, and then there's another comment here that says they're waiting for Chris Scott, which I'm not sure that's the right sort of thing. So, yeah.
I just think that they're not doing they're doing the right thing in the wrong way. Okay, that's what it is. They're literally, they finally come to terms that they need to do a process because they can't land the big fish. Fantastic, that's fine. Okay, but in the interim, by deciding on that, they haven't actually decided on the correct process with the right people, with the right criteria, and that typically ends with either not making a hiring decision at all or making a very bad hiring decision. And we cannot afford one more bad hiring decision for this role. We just can't. What I'm curious to see as well is if they do exit Little and Brad Lloyd, is what is their recruitment process for those roles as well? Who do they go to form a committee or where they go to an external partner to find them the next CEO? Are they just doing
it? They'll go to Campbell again.
Okay. They're talking. Well, they've approached Cook. Okay, so Cook is the clerko in the CEO role, right?
Yeah.
Before we go through a process for the CEO, we'll see whether we can land the big fish.
Yeah,
that seems to be the mandate. Let's try and avoid the process by getting the big name first. If we can't get him, then by default, Plan B will be run a process. Okay. The issue is now because the Carlton supporters have never ever or have waived on their sort of confidence in the club, we don't know whether we have no belief that they're going to do it right. This is a very long comment. Rash, you might have to read it out loud, man. This is like a thesis that we're going to have to go through.
This is a librarian, Chris Beach, our good friend.
Can tell.
He says, respect. I never wanted Ross Lyon at the club. He would have been a liability on the club with the excess baggage he would have brought with him after spending his time in Fremantle. How do we know that the same thing wouldn't have happened again if he came to us as a coach? With regards to Don Pike, you can consider him too, but you have to ask the question, can Pike be trusted with coaching after the fiasco at Adelaide? It's with the collective minds. It's so true. And if I look at what the options are of an experienced coach, then you got Brad Scott, and all due respect to him, but has he done major things? Well, look, he did well with North to probably a prelim, I would say, or definitely got finals. You got Mark Williams. I'm not sure. He's done a pretty good job at Melbourne, but he's been out of the game for ages.
He's not out of the game, but I wouldn't get him as a head coach. So who else? But again, what's the criteria? And now we're getting drawn into the conversation on who we go for. But no Carlton member can sit in their living room and simply have confidence in this process. We might still get who we want, whether it's Clarko or someone good. That's fine. But I can guarantee.
I heard Arlo say before, Clark's in. People want Clarkson still, but I think he's gone, man. Seriously. That race is gone. How many times do you have to get rejected to say, right, you're gone, you're out? Why would he want to go there with what's happening in the club? It's absolute disaster. You know, I was talking, sorry if I can mention, I was talking to Vince the other day, and he was talking to me about, do you remember how Lepic was approached for the job of head of football? But yet one day he got that call, and then another day he got called for the job as a board member for the director of football. There's no communication. It seems to me like it's an absolute mess out there. So why would you want to and this is why I'm pretty pro for getting the cleanup on the board side, because the direction is not clear. Even if Luke Sayers is coming in and he's going, okay, I'm coming in, I still think that until that's cleaned up, not going out and just getting the checkbook out like the old way of Carlton does it, right? Actually doing it a professional way. I'm not sure that this six-man team is the right team. And it's just really concerning because we are looked upon as a bit of a laughingstock. And sad.
I don't care about the media's opinion. I don't care about Gerard Whateley can't remove the glee on his face when he's talking about how bad we are. And I could not care less about how many people hate us. In fact, it actually motivates me, and I can't wait to celebrate when we actually do become successful if we do get there. Okay, it means nothing about the media's perception on us. They will always try and bring us down because they've hated us for the last 20 years since the whole sort of salary cap debacle. I don't care about that. I care about internally doing things right and actually running a process correctly and hiring the right people in the right way, and not just relying on the fact that you can just reach out to someone. That's fine if you get him, but it doesn't always work. And so your plan B process needs to be watertight. You need to know what you're doing. I can't understand how they have David Campbell and they've come with access to his knowledge, his wealth of knowledge, which, look, he's far better than me. He runs, or he's a partner. He's a partner in arguably the most reputable search firm globally, right?
So then why is he not on that selection? That's why I don't get.
That is strange, but also how has he allowed this selection committee to be named as the 6-person committee? This is what I don't understand. So saying here that the 6-person committee will make their recommendations. That's fine. So if they go to the board and they say Nathan Buckley, what happens?
What happens? He's good mates with Luke Sayers, and
Nathan Buckley throws his hat in the ring and he actually entertains the idea. Okay, credentials-wise, intellect-wise, football know-how-wise, he could go through the process successfully. If he's recommended to the board, what happens?
I don't know. That's the question. I don't know. I don't even know. Look who's on the board at the moment. I mean, that could be changed. Like at the moment, we have got instability. Like
but Collingwood had instability, and they ran a rigorous process. They interviewed a lot of people, like young coaches, and they got a guy who handled himself amazingly in his press conference, even with dickheads like Tony Jones asking stupid questions about, trying to egg him on into talking about other things, and he just shut him down with just simple one-word answers. No, no, no. Didn't bother me. No, no. Like they found a good get for where they're at right now. I don't know how he's going to be as a coach, but he's had success as an assistant. Again, Teague didn't even have success apart from his year in the West Coast. Like he didn't win flags with Adelaide.
Well, I mean, you become a runners-up. But there's a question here from Rhett Jackson Bigelow. He says, do you think it would be better to keep Teague for another year?
Absolutely not.
And then probably wait for Clarko.
Absolutely not. Because Teague killed us. Teague killed Samo, and he killed half the other playing list. And they're just like one more year of that would have just destroyed the list that we spent so much time to build. He wasn't the right person.
We're in a massive dilemma, and I know we're going to the selection process. So give us, as we wrap up, we're going to wrap up soon, give us some sort of like just recommendations. And if there's any other questions, guys, put those questions in the comments before we wrap up. Give us your recommendations. Hello, was that Linnell? No. She's jumping on the D's wagon. All right, cool. And it's true, man. Look, there is a massive ripple effect that what's going on right now. Serious, and that could be players walking out, not attracting the people. And as much as Luke Sayers looks strong and everything else at the moment.
You're hype, man. My recommendation is this: they're not going to redo their selection committee. That will never happen. So they need to get on board on the same page with what the criteria is for this role, and they can't deviate, not even 5%. Everybody has to sign off on the exact same criteria. Then go hunting for it, and be rigorous in the interview process to make sure that they truly tick off all the boxes, and they don't settle
even
for
if it's untried. Even if it's untried, coach. Even if it's an untried coach.
If the agreed criteria is untried, then they'll do it. But I don't think it is. So
but if collectively,
doesn't matter.
There's not many.
You need a lot of candidates. You're now sounding like some of my clients who when I give them one candidate, they say that candidate's amazing. Can I see others? Why?
But that's the same thing you could say about Ross Lyon. That client's Ross Lyon has to go through
the process. Even if he's the only one, he has to go through a process. Yeah, we can't offer him the job off the bat. He's not Clarkson. So just come through the process, mate. Dance with us a little bit.
Okay. It could have
Give
been
us your
handled better. Whatever it is, we don't know, but it could have been handled better.
So
Yeah.
collectively agree 100% on the criteria, whatever that is. Senior assistant, head coach experience, rookie, doesn't make a difference. Whatever it is, collectively agree without a single deviation from that. Everyone signs off from the selection committee and the board. That's the first thing. Then you rigorously interview based on that criteria. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Every person that you speak to, tell me about A, tell me about B, tell me about C, etc.
So it's a good thing what they're doing. It's a good thing.
Well, I don't know yet because I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what their criteria is, and I don't know how rigorous they're going to be in the process.
Okay.
To be able to go through everything, to be able to say, if our criteria is A, B, C, D, E, does the coach who they actually hire in the end tick off A, B, C, D, E? We're never going to have that visibility.
Fair
but
enough.
my only recommendation, if for some miracle anyone was ever listening to this podcast from the club, I would say this.
Yeah.
Collectively agree on the criteria, rigorously interview based on that criteria. Do not deviate from the agreed criteria, and do not settle for an 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. You need to tick off all your boxes.
And then one more is don't have any leakages, because that's the biggest problem with the club. There's too much leakage.
Well, that's a board issue, less than a recruitment process issue. And if the people who have been selected in this process can't be trusted, then that just reaffirms my point that these people shouldn't be there anyway.
And just to answer Lana's question about any idea of the EGM, as far as I know, no date has been. What they've done is they've presented it, and then they're just waiting. Vince is waiting for the club to get back to with the date for the EGM. So just wanted to answer that.
If they can wait 9 years, I can fix this for them. But until then, Rich.
Until you're president and I'm mind coach or GM of football, I've been told to be a good role for me. Here's a question.
Is when I run.
Here's a question. It says, if the board was spilled, would that change the entire process? Would it? Would that change the?
So in short, it shouldn't, because it will have too much of a negative impact if they stop the process, have to reevaluate and then start again. They need to get someone in there, a quick smart during the trade period, during the sort of draft and so forth, right? So it can't go on for too long. And if they spill the board and then they start the process again, then we're essentially screwed.
All right, and we've got another comment here from Vince. He's glad to have Vince on. He's saying the board must, just regarding the EGM, must announce the date within 3 weeks of receiving the petition, which was lodged at the club 27th of August. So there's your answer, Lana. Maybe we'll see if Vince might want to come on a little bit later. Let's see. So they said, then who's the suitable coach and be able to clean out this mess? Who knows? I mean, it's a big mess, isn't it?
It's hard to trust the process from a club / company that has instilled nothing but distrust over the last few years.
Few years? I think more than that.
So
that's a sad place, unfortunately. And we're positive guys. Just want to put that out there. But right now,
you're positive, and that's my gauge, mate. When you're negative, I actually start getting scared.
I know. Hey, listen, I know you got to run soon. I might even ask Vince if he wants to jump on.
I do have to jump.
If he wants to jump. Huh?
I do have to go. I'm
right. Just give me a couple of minutes of your time, because if Vince comes on, I'll get him on just to talk about that, and we'll continue on. But yeah, it's all a bit tough. I'm sure there's a lot of people want to hear about what's happening, and I don't want to put him on the spot because he might be busy at the moment. But last final recommendations and what you think.
Look, man, just they need to stay the course now. Stick with the process. They can't deviate. Clarkson's the only one that stops this process. Anybody else, I don't care who it is, even Paul Roos, doesn't matter. Stick to the process. That's all it is.
Okay, Vince is saying here, if the majority of voting members voted to spill the board, then existing directors would retain their positions, but in a caretaker mode till election is completed, and the new
Right.
Okay, so then that'll change things again.
So the process will stay as is while they hire the coach and so forth, right? But in the end, it may change the internal structures, obviously, with the new board and whatever else it may be. But this selection committee has to just stay the course, go through their process, whatever it is. God help us if who knows what these idiots have actually come up with, and then just go through the process, be rigorous in their process, hold them accountable in the interview process, and then hopefully we can land someone that meets their criteria. In the end, it doesn't need to be. We don't have to be blown away by the decision. As long as they find someone who meets their criteria, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Okay.
And what's your prediction? So, like, do you see anyone? Who do you? I mean, if I know it's hard to crystal ball it.
Clarko.
You still think Clarko?
I don't know why. I just think the longer this goes on, the more I think Clarko is going to get the job.
Interesting.
Mainly because I'm just probably thinking he's going to realize after 6 weeks off that he can't go anywhere because of lockdown, so he's going to just have to coach anyway.
Well, supposedly, yeah, that's true. I hope so, because I know the boys at the jumper punch have been telling me, Clarko, and I'm like, oh my God, I hope so. And I think we're all wanting that. But here's another comment from Luigi Foligno, getting a lot of Italian support here from the Paisanos. He's saying they're only going after experienced senior coach. That leaves Voss, Buckley, Scott, and Pike.
I would rule out Pike right away because he was responsible for arguably the most disastrous preseason camps in the history of the AFL with racism and whatnot. So Adelaide, so he's not getting a gig. I don't care what happens in that process. He can't meet the criteria. Buckley is going to come with a hell of a lot of negative stigma, being from Collingwood and being the Collingwood, but also just that Collingwood favourite son, whether or not that would work. I know a lot of Carlton guys hate Scott, but I don't mind him personally. He's a tough coach, and Voss, I'm not the biggest fan, but he's learning a lot more over the last few years, so maybe he's got something. And again, I haven't interviewed him, so I would love it, mate. I would love to interview these coaches and just find out exactly what is going on in their head to give my findings from my experience. But that's obviously not the case.
We're seeing here Lana saying Carlton respects. Got Joseph from Bangkok saying hello too. I might just see if Vince wants to come on or Joe or whatever. I'm going to put the StreamYard link if someone wants to jump in. I know you got to go.
I've got to go, man.
I'm going to put that in. But but you haven't given me an answer. You're saying okay, if we don't get Clarko, who are we getting in?
Well, we discussed this off air, mate, that we weren't going to talk about who we're going to get. Now you're just trying to pull me in to just trying to put my balls on the line and trying to guess I'm not who we're going to get.
Well, it's good that we could put it on on record here that you said it. It would be pretty good if you could.
Now, look, I believe, and whether it's wishful thinking or not, I do believe it's Clarko at the moment.
I hope you're right, because I think no other person can really fix it up unless it's Clarko, and I'd be giving him the keys at the moment to Icon Park.
I'll be giving him the keys to everything that is associated with Carlton. Keys to Lygon Street, for crying out loud. I don't care. Just get him in.
Well, I've been hearing Parko and Clarko. So, I mean, Parko probably have a good relationship with the Hawthorn connection to try to get him in.
I don't care how they get him, as long as they get him, to be honest. But if it goes through a process and it's not Clarkson, literally we're guessing, because those names that came up on the screen earlier, none of them are really super exciting. But
Ramo, can I just quickly get a couple of guys in? I'll give you 5 minutes, please, because we've just got Rocco and Joe just to come in. I know you got to go. Let me add.
Killing me. 19 minutes over.
Quickly get a couple of guys. Cool. Let me just add the boys. We've just got Rocco and Joe just to come in. I know you got to go. Just give you go.
19 minutes over.
Come on, you got to turn down your volume. Just add the boys. We've just got Rocco and Joe just to come in. I know you got to go. Joe, you need to turn off your thing. Let me get Rocco. Just add the boys. Rocco, how's it going? You need to turn off your thing. Let me get Rocco. Let me get Vince in.
Can you hear me? Is it?
Rocco, how's it going?
All right. Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Someone's got their mic on. Rocco, how's it going?
All right. Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Everyone should put your mic on. Put their mic on. Rocco, how's it going? All right. Let me get Vince to the picture. Let me mute everyone else and work out what's happening. All right. So let me mute you, Rocco. All right. There you go, Vince. How's it going?
Hey, Ramo.
Hey,
boys.
Hiya. You're right.
I'm not echoing from my end, hopefully.
No, it's not you. I think it's Rocco. And Rocco, you come back in. And then I'll add Joe also and see. Hopefully it's not Joe.
Yeah.
Joe, welcome.
Hello,
no, it's
me,
Rocco.
is it? Oh.
Rocco.
Oh, Joe from Bangkok.
Hello, Vince. Hello, Moonface.
All right, boys, because I've only got Rambo here for another couple of minutes. So if you guys want to ask a question to Ramo, and then we'll get some of the comments, and then we'll get him off, and then ask away, and then we'll get some comments from some of the audience. Anything you want to say to Ramo?
You going first, Vince, or me?
Side?
No, you go first, Joe.
Okay. So I'm sorry. I've just finished a teaching class, so I haven't heard what Ramo had to say. But I'm interested to know who he thinks will be our coach, or who does he? There's two questions: who do you want to be the coach, and who do you think will be the coach?
Yeah. Okay. So I want Clarko more than anything in life. And I, for some reason, still believe we're going to get him. But if we don't get Clarko, I am literally blinded by who we're going to go through this process. Zero confidence in their process. Not sure who we're going to get. The candidate pool is quite thin. So maybe I'm just blindly optimistic over Clarkson because I just believe that's the only candidate for us.
Yeah.
I read something quite funny on Facebook. It said Carlton Football Club have already gotten rid of Ross Lyon, so we don't need to sack him in 2 years' time.
All right, let me get Vince on. Quickly, and let's get Vince on to ask Ramo a quick question, and then we'll get Ramo to leave, and then we'll carry on.
Well, a little bit like Joe, Ramo. Unfortunately, I came in about 25 minutes into your broadcast, but I'm interested to know, how do you assess the first couple of weeks of this new presidency since there was the swamp?
We haven't got the thing yet, have we?
So initially, from where I sit, initially he presented well in that press conference. He spoke well. He didn't get sucked into sort of answering questions that he didn't want to answer.
Let's just hardwire it.
But he has slowly disappointed me as the weeks or days have gone on. That would be my response. I think Vince is frozen, guys.
All right. I think Vince is frozen. All right. Hold on. Let me get Rocco in. Rocco, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Now we can. You want to ask Ramo the question before he leaves?
This sounds a bit like the Carlton board meeting now. Can you hear me? What's going on? What's next? What's going? Oh, we'll do this. Oh, wait a sec. That didn't work. Let's do this now. Let's get this person in. This is what the whole fucking saga sounds like. All I got to say is the the problem is I've always said what we feel is what the club feels. The supporters are confused, man. We don't know what's going on, man. They get rid of a coach. They're after another coach. They're after another coach. Well, you don't think the club is feeling the exact same thing at the moment? They're just running around now. They're just like, for me, getting Parkins, that's just to say, oh, look, we've got someone big. He's 79 years old, mate. Like, man, they're just all over the place, mate. And I have no, like what you said, Ramo, I've got no confidence in what they're doing now. Like, what coaches now are available? Let's take Clarko and Ross out of this, right? Forget about it. I believe Clarko will come too, but let's take him out. Let's take him out. What are they doing now? We're just going back and we're walking down the street looking for fucking rubbish again. That's what's happening now.
Yep.
That's my
Ramo,
rant.
last comment before we let you go, and I'm going to keep on going with the boys.
Like I said a few times, they've decided on a process. I think they should do a process. If it's not Clarkson, anyone else has to go through a process. As long as they agree on what the criteria is and stick to it, which I have no confidence that they'll do because they're very disorganized. They're not united. So the idea is right. I think the execution is going to be very, very poor.
So what's the mail setting?
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Ramo. Much appreciated.
Corner.com.au.
Good to see you guys.
See you,
Thanks,
Ramo.
mate.
All right. Very good. Thanks, Ramo. All right. We're going to keep on going for a little bit. I'm going to get Vince into the main screen because you are the main man and everyone wants to hear from you. And just regarding the EGM and interesting, I don't know what you heard before of what Ramo was talking about with David Campbell, which is very interesting that he's not on, especially coming from a big recruitment agency. Any points you want to say? And I'm just going to add a couple of. I might get Sam in shortly also. Carry on. Go ahead.
Well, the only thing I mean, look, what appears to have happened, what seems to have happened, is that Luke Sayers must have made certain representations to Ross Lyon that because they couldn't get Clarkson, that basically they want him if he wants the job. He said, yes, I do want the job. Then he's gone back because that initial approach was assuming that he had board approval to make a captain's call like that. And the board or certain members of the board have kicked up and said, no, we're not going to let you do that. We want to go through a proper process and see who's out there, and then we'll make a decision as to who's the best candidate. And so he's had to come back to Ross Lyon and say, look, as much as I would have liked to have just got you straight on, we can't do this. We're going to have to go through a process. Other board members are insisting on it. So he's had to go back with his tail between his legs. This is what it seems to me. And explained that we've got a 6-person panel, one of whom is Brad Lloyd, who we had a big falling out with in Fremantle. One of whom is Kane Little, who had a massive falling out with Stephen Silvani, Ross Lyon's very close friend and business associate. And another one is Paddy Kinsley, who apparently has kicked up about this incident that happened between Ross Lyon and this female staffer at Fremantle, which is one of the main reasons he left, and there was all of that kerfuffle about that. So he's probably thought, well, I've been set up to fail here. I'm not going to take part in this. Those three wouldn't want me. So why would I want to put myself through that? Plus, I've been coaching for 13 years. Surely I'm a little bit in the Alistair Clarkson bracket of having coached a number of years. I've proven myself to be able to get teams into grand finals. Pretty unlucky not to have won one, at least one, if not 2 or 3. And why should I have to go through this process, especially with the sort of people that you're putting on the panel? They're not going to be in my favour. So he's just said, you know what? Don't worry about it. If that's what you got to do, I'm out.
Yeah, but do you blame him, Vince? Do you blame him?
Doing that.
Do you blame him?
No,
I don't blame him. But then again, mind you, I hate this word process, right? It's basically a job interview. And we all know that when there's a vacancy, you don't just take the first applicant, right?
No.
You do sound out.
No, just sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
There's two basic categories of coach. There's the ones that you go out and headhunt because you've
Yes.
identified that that's the coach for you.
Yep.
And make the approach and you make certain representations that you can actually deliver on. And that's where I think Luke Sayers stuffed it up.
Yeah, and I think the first one was...
He could not follow through with those.
Yeah, I think the first one was Parko.
He got to check that he had board support and board approval before he went out and made that captain's call.
Yeah, but that's naive.
Based now.
But that's naivety, Vince. I mean, I would have thought that a person who was the CEO of Price Waterhouse has headhunted more than one executive in his life, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe even his head of recruitment has gone and headhunted more than one person, right? So for him to then go and do that, I mean, if Clarko had said yes, we all wouldn't have been having this conversation. We'd all be slapping ourselves on the back. And as Rocco's rightly pointed out on his show, The Jumper Punch, just getting the Messiah ain't going to change shit, right?
Just for the record, it's the best show on the web. For the record, that is the
it's the
best show.
It's the
and
second
have a look at
best.
the comments, boys. Just
wait,
while
it's the second best. Do what? No, but seriously. But as Rocco and Marcello and his other, I forget the guy's name because I'm just confused. Paul, yeah,
Paolo.
Paolo. As they rightly pointed out the other night, we're not doing anything different. All we're doing is going. We bought Chris Judd hoping for the quick fix. It didn't work. We've gone and bought Mitch McGovern hoping for the quick fix. It didn't work. Then we won't go and buy Jack Martin. Then we go and buy Zach Williams. Then we go and buy Eddie Betts. Then we go. It's not working. And the people that make these decisions are so, I don't know, blind, naive. I don't want to swear, but idiotic. You know, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect a different result. And here we are again. We're 20 years into a 3-year rebuild, right? Let's face it, it's been 20 years since we've been any good, right? And here we are 20 years into this build, and we're still talking about, we need to get the culture right. We need to get the right players. We need to get the right board structure. Come on, Leo Sayers, you've been there 9 bloody years. Yeah, Leo.
The problem is, guys, and I said this before, right? Why don't they want to come? See, that's the root of this issue here. Why don't they want to come? Why wouldn't Clarkson want to come? He said he wants the year off. Let's be serious, man. If they're chucking this sort of money and he still refuses, what is the root problem of this club? Why doesn't Ross Lyon want to come now? If we don't fix this root problem, we can get Jesus Christ himself there and we're not going to win anything. What is the root? That's what they should be doing now. We should be, like they did the review. What did the review show? What is the root problem? At the end of the day, if we don't find that out, like my old man used to say, scored it. Right? Forget it.
No, you
God.
Okay.
No, but that's true. That's true. And why don't they? We know why Ross Lyon doesn't want to come, because he's obviously, as Vince said, been promised the Holy Land, and then the next thing you know, they've put the lock on the gate and said, no, you can't take the Holy Land before we interview you. And he's probably thinking, I don't need to prove myself. I've got, how long's he been coaching? 13, 14 years?
13 years.
Right? 13 years. He's probably thinking to himself, my CV should speak for itself. I'm sure he would have been happy to go up there and say, well, I think this is what we've got to do and this is what we're... But to go through a 6 to 8 week process, come on. You went and headhunted him. He didn't come looking for the job. It's not like he rang up the club like me or Vince or Rocco or Rich is going to do next week and go, hey, we're interested in the job. They went to him, right? Now, you don't approach people unless you're keen,
That's right.
unless you want them. And if you don't want them, you don't approach them. Sorry, Rich.
No, it's all right. Can I just say from the outset, and I'm going to get a couple of the boys to come in shortly, and then we'll wrap up quickly because I'm sure there's a bunch of questions, so put the questions in there. From the outset, the question that we need to be asking is that from the outside, it looks like we are absolutely dysfunctional. Something's wrong. So from David Campbell not being on that selection process, Diesel being, which I don't mind Diesel being what he's doing, and a whole bunch of different things. And now we're looking like, why can't we attract Alex? If we were a great club, we'd have Alex Clarkson there. That's a fact. We'd have Brian Cook there also, but we're not. So this is the interesting. I'm just going to get.
What does it tell you?
Sorry.
It tells you that in AFL circles, and believe me, it's a smaller world than what you realise, or than what most people realise. Coaches do talk to other coaches. Players talk to other players at other clubs. It's commonly known that Carlton is dysfunctional as an organisation. The culture is toxic. Coaches know that they're going to get their reputations ruined and their careers probably cut short, because if you go through the last 30 years worth of coaches, only Brett Ratton has gone on to get another job somewhere else. And that's not because he coached at Carlton. That's because he did another 4 or 5 years at Hawthorn under Alistair Clarkson. That's why he got his job at St Kilda, not because of what he did at Carlton. So, Alistair Clarkson would have had Brett Ratton telling him what it was like to coach at Carlton for those 5 years when he went to Hawthorn straight. And Brett Bolton then got a job, then got fired, and he would have told Alistair Clarkson what it was like. But that was the same 7 years after Brett Ratton got sacked. And he would have thought nothing's changed. Nothing. It's still controlled by the benefactors. There's still all of these interferences from outside of the football department, and you are set up to fail. You're brought in as the Messiah, but when it doesn't work out, they chop you and they get rid of you and they eat you up and spit you out. And that's exactly what they did to David Teague last week. I doubt very much David Teague will get another senior position anywhere. I doubt very much that Brendan Bolton will get another senior position anywhere. Can any of you see them get another senior position?
No.
So why would you go? This board is the top of the organisation. The fish rots from the head. So that's what's got to change first. Then everything else is to follow. If it doesn't change up at board level, you're just tinkering with the edges and nothing will ever change. And as Rock quite rightly said, it doesn't matter whether you get Jesus Christ down. He's not going to win you a premiership on his own. This board is an obsessed mentality, and it just pulls out the checkbook thinking that that's going to solve everything. They don't address the problems where they need to be addressed. The cultural problem at this club, they will not address it because they are the cause of it. That's the problem. They changed over half the board last week. Do you really see any changes to the nature of the board? Do you really see any change? They've even replaced one dual Brownlow medalist with a Norm Smith medal around his neck with another dual Brownlow medalist with a Norm Smith medal around his neck, except he's 20 years older than the predecessor. So that's it. The three, it's like for like. Top-end business people up in the ivory towers, managing companies that are on the stock exchange and all that sort of thing, they replace like for like. It's a boys' club, and that's what it's always been. And under people like Luke Sayers, that's all it's ever going to be in the future.
Vince, we're going to wrap up shortly. I've just got a couple of questions for you, and I'm going to put Shay in the book here, just at the front, and let him ask a question. So let me just put him on. Go ahead, Shay.
Hi, Shay.
Joe, you need
guys,
to mute your mic, my friend, please. Yeah, thanks. Go
Can
ahead.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah.
Hi.
So now that we've got looks like we're not getting no Clarko, no Ross Lyon, who Sayers said we're going to go out there and get the most experienced and the best coach out on the market.
Yeah.
Who's the next candidates now? Have we got any idea who's in the picture here, or?
You'd have to
Mate,
say
this is becoming an absolute joke out there, and we don't even know where we're heading. The season's about to start soon.
main candidates if you want experience are Brad Scott, Nathan Buckley, and Michael Voss. They're the three main. Don Pike's already indicated he wants to stay in Sydney. So, I mean, you can approach him, but he's already indicated what he prefers to do. The other three, even Nathan Buckley's manager has said, no, he really wants to have a year off from it. Again, they're trying not to hardest not to offend us. But what they're really saying in so many words is, I don't want to come to your organisation. I don't respect it. I'm not tempted by it. And doesn't matter how much money you throw at me, I'm not prepared to have my reputation ruined and just join the long list of coaches who have had their reputations and careers shortened by being the senior coach of the Carlton Football Club. It is a poisoned chalice, and they don't want to drink from it because the word's gotten out that that's what happens. They expect you to come in, they pay you handsomely, but if you don't do it all on your own, they're not going to address the problems. You've got to fix it. You're the Messiah. You're supposed to fix everything. And if you don't fix everything, you'll be out on your backside in 3 years from now. We'll probably cut short your contract. And that's what's happened with Pagan, with Ratton, with Malthouse, with Bolton, with T, the whole lot of them. All cut short well before the end of their contracts. If you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, what do they call that, Joe?
Insanity. But I've just muted him at the moment because he's got feedback. So I'm going to remove you and then put you back in. All right. Listen, let me get in Sam. Shay, thanks for that question. I'm going to bring in Sam and let him ask a question to the boys.
Yep.
Go,
boys,
Sam.
how you doing?
Hey, Sammy.
Good.
Hey, boys.
All right, Sam.
I don't even have a question to ask, mate. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you all and I'm agreeing with everything you guys are saying 100%. Vince, mate, you're on the money, mate. You're on the money. Joe's been on the money. I think all of you guys, what you guys have said, been on the money. We're not going to get Clarko. We're not going to get Ross. Who are we going to get? I mean, who really wants to, have their contract, cut short, come and catch a Carlton? Like Vince was saying, who wants to come and have a drink of the poison chalice, mate? Because seriously, well, Bolton's actually gone to Collingwood now, so I think, he'll do well there with McRae, and then he'll probably will get another job somewhere else, I reckon.
As a senior coach?
As a senior coach, if you give him a few more years, I reckon, see how Collingwood goes.
Well, a bit like Ratton Sam. If he does get another job, it's not because of what he did at Carlton. It's going to be because he spent time elsewhere in an organisation that has got a successful culture, a winning culture.
Exactly.
Like what Ratton experienced at Hawthorn. If Brett Ratton never had those years at Hawthorn, do you honestly think he would have got the job at St Kilda?
No
chance.
100% no.
And this is the problem.
No,
Rocco still holds out hope, I know, of getting Clarkson still.
No, both of us, Rocco and Rash, together. We're dreaming.
Ramo's in La La Land.
Go, Rocco. What were you saying?
You have to have hope, and I'm telling you, it's not over. What are you joking? Of course it's not over, mate. Of course they're going to still be going for Clarkson. This is all just a little bit of a dance everyone's doing. Everyone knows the dance. Everyone knows the dance. Now, is he going to come? We don't know if he's going to come, but of course they're going to try until they appoint another coach, man. Just remember what happened to Ron Barassi. He said no, man, and then the president at the time spent like 12 hours on the phone overnight, and the next day he was the coach of Carlton. It's not over.
Vince?
The president was Frank Worrell, or who was it? Whoever it was.
No. It was George Harris.
George Harris, sorry, yeah. So, yeah. But the point is here now, we can go on about everything that's happened and the board and what's going to be happening. What is the next step at Carlton? This is what they should be thinking about. What is the next step? Don't worry about what's happened. It's all about now and how we're going to move forward, right? How are we going to move forward? This board, the next board, it doesn't matter at the moment. The point is, how are we going to move forward? What is the root problem and what is the next step? what is the next step at the moment? And at the moment, I can't see that. All I'm seeing is confusion. Why isn't there a clear path, a clear roadmap of what we are doing next?
Exactly.
I'm going to ask a question to Vince, if I can, Vince, because I've got Shay there. Sorry, Sam, I'm going to get you off for a little bit and put you back on. Shay and I talk a lot about footy and stuff. I think the question that maybe a lot of people want answered is that with all this destabilization, Shay and I have spoken about this, everyone's a bit concerned. Shay, maybe you can ask the question. You know what? Yeah? Do you want to ask the question?
Concerned, what are you asking? Concerned in regards to what, Rash?
The EGM. You know, you were talking to me about that. You got a lot of friends that are saying to you, "Oh, what's Vince doing?"
So basically, the noise on the outside was, the Clarko, when he sort of said, he wasn't going in there because they didn't want to see the instability of a board. Whether to sort of back off on the EGM, maybe that sort of worried Clarko a little bit, where he just wanted a bit more of a solid foundation in the board sort of system. So that's what I was hearing, and they got a little bit worried. But now that we've come to this stage now, mate, they want to go full power now with the EGM.
Okay.
All right, let's get Vince to answer that.
They've had enough, mate.
Yeah. Can I just say this, first of all? This board, it's typical of this board not to take responsibility for its failures, okay, or for its mistakes. So naturally what they're going to say is that I'm the cause of the instability, because what I'm doing is trying to bring democracy back to the club rather than it being run like a Chinese dictatorship, right?
Yep.
So that I don't accept that what I'm doing is bringing instability at all. In fact, Collingwood has exactly the same thing playing out at the moment. They're not going to have theirs resolved until December, and yet they've had plenty of applicants for their job. They've gone right through an extensive process, and last week they announced their new coach. No problems, right? So why doesn't that happen at Carlton? Because our board is proving itself to be deficient when it comes to football IQ. Okay? They might have the biggest brains in the accounting world, the legal world, and they might be champions of industry and be running public companies and all that sort of thing. But when it comes to running a football club, I'll ask you.
Habib's.
Mate,
Habib's.
it's an absolute shambles at the moment. We are an absolute laughing stock. Anywhere I walk around the street, I go for a run or I have a kick of the footy, they're bagging the shit out of the Carlton Footy Club at the moment.
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
It's an absolute joke, mate. Since '95, we couldn't even get our act together. What's so hard about running a football club?
Well, Lee Matthews said last week, I don't know who's running that football club, but whoever it is, they have no idea how to run a football club. Now, that's coming from
we're all over the news, mate. We're creating more attention now than the bloody finals going on at the moment.
Yeah.
That's how big our club is, boys.
So what I want to
Go ahead, Vince.
I want to say one thing. Rocco is right about one thing.
Just one.
Well, he's right about a lot. He's right about most things. And one thing he's right about is this: that until the club announces a different person as the new coach of the Carlton Football Club, until that day happens, they will continue to pursue Alistair Clarkson until they just can't accept no anymore, and they have to make a decision on someone else. Yeah. So, in terms of the EGM, to answer your question, Shay, the petition with all of the required signatures on it was lodged with the club Friday, 8 days ago, okay, the 27th of August. The club has 3 weeks to announce a date for the EGM. It cannot be any later than 2 months after it was lodged. So 27th of October is the last date that they can schedule the EGM. But they must announce it. Now, they've already had 1 week and haven't announced it. So they've got 2 more weeks to go to make an announcement of what the date is. And they must give us minimum 3 weeks notice between when they announce and when they hold it. Are you with me?
Yep.
So let's say they announce it at the end of next week. They can make it 3 weeks from the end of next week, or they can make it as late as the 27th of October. I think the sensible type of timing for it would be after the AFL Grand Final, which is the last week of September. So I would have thought that, first or second week, maybe third week of October, that would be an appropriate time for it.
Yep.
Now, when they announce that date, depending on the date, we will then reveal the people that we will be putting up in competition with the board at an appropriate time prior to that EGM taking place, so that people know, hey, this is who it is, this is what their backgrounds are, etc.
Good.
Good to know. All right, boys.
Are you, Vince? Vince, just quickly, are you happy with David Parkin coming back into the football club as part of the coaching panel?
Look, I love David Parkin as much as anybody. I think David Parkin is an icon of the club. And honestly, I haven't spoken with him yet, but I dare say he is doing this because of two reasons. One, he's more than likely to have had a phone call from Greg Williams pleading with him to come on and help him out. And secondly, he's probably doing it purely out of loyalty to the Carlton Football Club, because Carlton has given David Parkin a lot of enjoyment and a lot of success throughout his career.
He's just passionate, mate.
The club to help it out. If he can help it out, he will help it out, regardless of who's running the club. So, if a totally different board took over in 2 months from now, and they asked David Parkin to do something similar, I have no doubt that he would do it out of sheer loyalty and a feeling of indebtedness to the club. I think he's an unbelievable icon of our club, but I've got to say, a bit like Rocco, I think Rocco said this, that appointments like these have been made more to try and give the board some sort of leg up for the popularity of the members. And I think every decision that you witness being made by this board is what you need to do is look at it through the lens of what's in it for them. Because I think what they're making is motivated first and foremost by self. All right? They're doing what's in their best interests.
Yep.
Not necessarily the clubs or the players or the coaches or the people. So when you have a board making decisions on that basis, you know that there's going to be mistakes made everywhere. And they're showing them.
All right, boys.
This last week, Shay, I haven't had to do a thing. I haven't had to say anything. I haven't had to do any media. And if it was a soccer match, it would be 4-0, and they're all own goals. They're through their own net. I haven't had to do.
Boys, we're going to wrap up soon. Thanks, Shay, for that question. Vince, Rocco, Joe, any last comments before we wrap up? Always a pleasure to have you guys on. This was an ad hoc thing. We got Ramo on to talk about the committee and where we're headed, and it's gone this way. And I'm glad that, Vince, you've come on. At least there's a lot of people that have been asking, what's going on with the EGM, and you've clarified that. So really, really appreciate that. Rocco, any comments, or Joe? Joe, I'll get you off mute in a second. We'll get you in.
You still got feedback?
Nice.
Yeah, go.
Rocco, right, and they get Clarkson. Throw more money at him, and eventually he just says, I can't back. They're offering me $5 million a year.
Yep.
I've got to take it, right? Do you honestly think that's the right basis upon which someone should be accepting the position?
No, but...
And there's question 2 on that. If they only offered him the same money as what he was on at Hawthorn, would he come?
he probably would not come for the same money. So what your question is coming for the money, and is that the right reasons? Is that the question?
Is that going to buy someone like?
He is coming. I believe he is. The money would be a big incentive for him, so of course he would come for the money. Is that the right reason? No, it's probably not the right reason to come. Would Clarkson, the professional coach he is, still give his best and be the right choice for Carlton? Yes, he would be. Even though we had to pay him, I think at the end of the day, it would still be the right choice. Now, does that fix the root problem of the club? No. So there's many layers to that question. He would still be the right coach to get, regardless of how we get him there. He's still the right person to get, because I think he's good enough. He's professional enough. He's smart enough. He's all of those things. So any way you could get him in, you would have to get him in. Does that fix the whole problem? No. There'll be still issues with the club. And because of those issues, do we win a final or do we win a grand final? Probably not. So I don't know if I answered you there.
No, but I think you're being real, Vin, Rocco. And that's the real thing. And this is where we're at as a club. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
That's exactly where we're at. That's what I think. But if you have to get him in, you get him in. You have to get him in.
And do you agree with me that until they announce someone else's name as the coach of the club, he is still in play and will always be in play, and they'll keep going at him week after week after week.
I would be
one of the reasons I think Luke Sayers said that this will be a 30 to 45 day process, because I think that they're banking on, if they just keep chipping away, upping the ante a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, that sooner or later everyone's got their price.
100%. And I'd actually be upset if they weren't trying until the last minute. You have to. Look, at the end of the day, everyone can argue that they want him, that he hit Atkins, that he done this, that's all I'm hearing. But at the end of the day, if you put him side by side, he's one of the top 3 coaches going around. Full stop. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Even what he did with Hawthorn this year, right? That's the worst team I've seen Hawthorn for the last 30 years, and he still got him to play good football. Right? He still got him at the end, and they only fell like half a game behind us or something, you know. So at the end of the day, he gets the best out of the group, and that's what we want. He's the best, and I would be upset if they weren't trying to get him until the last second. Guaranteed.
I want to say, just for the record, that Rocco and I, we've both said that it's not over till the fat lady sings, and we can't even see the fat lady at the moment. So
I agree.
No, you're not a lady, mate. That's good. Hey, listen, we're going to wrap up in 3 minutes because we've gone over an hour and 27 minutes. So any final words? Look, thanks, guys. Really, really appreciate you guys coming on, and the comments have been absolutely amazing. Someone I need to put into mute. I think that's Mr. Shea. If there's any other points you want to put on, look, we did this as an ad hoc sort of thing today, just recruitment. And I really thank everyone that's come on. Really, really appreciate it. Any other points anyone wants to put on?
Vince, I want to say this. Do you reckon this is the typical Carlton way, trying to buy a premiership? Like we have every other time? Yes, obviously trying to buy Clarko, trying to buy... It sounds like we're trying to buy a premiership, and every other club has just gone about it the proper way. Look at Collingwood. They've done what was a 90-day, I think it's a 90-day process, and obviously
Can I answer that? I'll tell you if it's the Carlton way. Look who is running the club. Multi-billionaires who are big CEOs of companies who have their own way. So you answered your own question. Is it the Carlton way to buy your own premiership? Look who's leading it. Of course it's the Carlton way. If it was me, right, as president, I haven't got that sort of pool, have I? So what would I do? I would have to do what I know best, and that's with communicating with people, trying to get a process, trying to write things on a piece of paper, which I still do. That's how I would be dealing with it, you know? But look who you're dealing with. You're dealing with multi-millionaires who, of course, this is the only way they know how to do stuff. So that's my answer.
Yeah,
Well,
no,
you just
fair
got a
point.
comment
Good
here
call,
from
Rocco.
Lana. She reckons banana of the year for the Carlton Club.
Banana of the year, okay? That's it.
Well,
All right, guys.
I want to say
Go, Vince. Wrap it up. Final word.
in response to Rocco and to answer the question that was asked.
From Sam.
Rocco is right. That is how they do business, and it's the way they've been doing it for 20 years.
Yep.
Look where. That's all I'm going to say.
Exactly, 100%.
After buying Pagan, buying Malthouse, buying Judd, all of these players and coaches that we've attracted to the club because we pulled out the big checkbook, where has it got us? If you don't do it in the 21st century the right way, the way you ought to do it, through the draft, through the salary cap and everything else the way it's meant to be done, it doesn't work like that anymore. That was the Carlton way of the 80s and 90s and all that, and it doesn't work anymore. And what you do have to do is attract good people to your football club and your organisation by having a winning culture, setting high standards, having that set from board level down, filtering through the organisation. They're going to reinforce those standards at every level of the club. And then people start talking about how wonderful the environment is, how they feel good about coming to work, they have fun, they're enjoying the progress, they can see the journey, and they start improving, and that's how you'll start attracting the right people to the club. I don't see any evidence at all at our club in the way that these billionaires and everything else at board level has been doing business for 20 years. Where is it now? You tell me a snapshot of the Carlton Football Club today. That's what we've got to show for 20 years of doing business that way, Rocco. And where are we?
That's it. Proof's in the pudding. Proof's in the pudding.
Thank you very much.
Hey,
So do you think getting Brian Cook in would be a good idea?
What's that? I didn't hear that. All right. I just want to say in the final word, and sorry, what's the question, Sam?
Do you think getting Cook into the club would be a good idea then?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, Brian Cook, the Alistair Clarkson of CEOs, right?
Yeah.
He's considered,
100%.
and he's been a long time. But he's at West Coast. He was at Geelong, somewhere else as well. I can't remember. But wherever he's gone, he would be a fantastic acquisition if we were able to. But why doesn't he want to come? Tell me. Why doesn't he want to come?
The poison
I'm telling you,
chalice.
word is out there, and it's been out there for years. You don't go to Carlton unless you're prepared to have your career cut completely short. It's the last resort. It's the place to go to when no one else will give you a chance. That's unfortunately where we're at now. Yet again, administration and this board. We need to clear it at the top and get a totally new look, new people who are there for the right. We do need to hard yards, but I'm telling you, it won't be long before you turn it around. It doesn't take that around when you've got the right people employed.
Hey guys, look, I'm going to wrap it up. Look, it's been a pleasure having you all. Joe, we had some technical issues with him before, so for next time, and those who don't know, there's a Facebook page called In the Blue Corner. Suggest to follow that. I don't know if Vince has got the thing, or maybe Joe can put it on this group now, what the link is. It's been an absolute pleasure. I just want to say one thing.
On Facebook, Rash, I think In the Blue Corner on Facebook.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. I just wanted to say something from the mindset stuff and from my, as if I can do the final word, is that negativity from the top cascades all the way down. Trust me. And I can show you so many different tests, and there's so much science out there that says that if it goes at the top, everyone feels it, and then there's uncertainty, and everything else it cascades. So this has got a massive ripple effect, and hopefully, with what you're doing, Vince, and leading the charge, it's short-term pain, but for long-term gain. So kudos to you, my friend. Rocco, thanks for joining. Shay, absolute pleasure as always.
Cheers, guys.
Sammy, thanks again. We'll see you on the next time, and I'll load this onto YouTube also. Thanks for everyone that joined. Lana, Gina, Paolo, the Jumper Punch Boys, Chris Beach, etc., and Ramo, of course, the main guest who was on before. We've gone way over time, but I think it was really good that we got Vince on today. Thanks, Vince, again, really special. And Rocco coming on.
Invoice is in the mail.
Yeah, no worries. No, I really appreciate it, because you've
week.
answered a lot of questions here that a lot of people have been asking. And now I think that's a little bit clear. And I know you can't give away too much because you're in a situation where you can't give away too much. When I understand it, respect that. But at least it's a little bit more clear for other people that don't know.
Yeah.
So thank you all.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
really
we're at a stage now, Rash, where we are actually waiting on the club. We're waiting on the club to make an announcement. Once they make an announcement, then we'll all know where we stand. But they've still got another 2 weeks to make that announcement. So in the meantime, what you'll see coming from us on the Carlton Now Facebook page, for anyone who's interested, go to Carlton Now on Facebook, and you'll see updates on everything that we're doing. You'll see media statements there. We're putting another one out in the next 24 to 48 hours. And just to explain where things are at, I think you'll probably find some more newspaper coverage next week as well in the Melbourne media. So, things are still happening. We're being asked for our response to things. I had Jake Nile, the chief football writer from The Age, contact me yesterday. We had a long conversation. I wouldn't be surprised if he starts reporting on a few things that we're doing. So I guess we've got to get the word out to all of the Carlton members that we know that, there is an opportunity to change direction. There's an opportunity to change course. The only EGM we will have had in 19 years, because of the way this board has conducted itself, because of the way it tried to deceive the Carlton members about a month ago, when it tried to bring in constitutional changes that were designed to entrench their power and to further strengthen their stranglehold over the club at a time when they should have been putting themselves up and being accountable for their failure over the last decade, at least the last decade. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, because as far as I'm concerned, that sort of conduct, in my view, is unethical, it's immoral, it's deceptive, and it is totally contrary to the way a board ought to operate, because the board is there at the pleasure of its members, and it ought to be looking after its members' best interests, not its own best interests at the expense of the members. And that's why I believe that this board is no longer fit to govern, whether it's governed by Legitiche or Sayers. A lot of people are saying, give Sayers a go, give Sayers a go. He's been there for 9 years, and he was joined at the hip with Legitiche on all of the major decisions, including the sacking of 3 coaches and including these constitutional changes. I'll tell you why. Because a lot of these constitutional changes benefited him more than any other person, extending the term of a president to a minimum of 4 years, even though he's only meant to be on there for another 2. Being allowed to bring on members of the board who are not even members of the club because they're mates of his. He wanted the flexibility to do that. Now, what does that say about the value of membership? It's not good enough, and these people need to be shown up and exposed for their treacherous behaviour. And it's about time that Carlton members finally took their club back, and I'm going to give them that opportunity very soon.
That's the final word, ladies and gentlemen. Or a second final word. Go ahead, Rock.
What everyone needs is a good Jumper punch.
Yes.
Vince for
love it.
president
There
of
you go,
Carlton
okay.
Football Club.
Thanks, guys. Much appreciated. Vince, thanks for the final word.
No problem.
We'll put on the next time if we're going to do another show or whatever. I'll be in touch, and just follow the page of Lionheart Facebook. Really, really much appreciated, boys. Love the passion of the Blues. Much appreciated. Goodbye
Let's
from the
get the Blues
sandpit.
back on top, Rash.
Oh, we got to, mate. We got to do it, mate. We got to do it.
We've got to get back on top.
All right,
Cheers.
guys.
We will, guys. We will.
Cheers.
See you guys.
Thanks again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.